Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Council and Committee for the Town of Petawawa to order on January 26, 2026. Welcome to members of council, staff, and our special guests in the seats here in the council chambers this evening. I'd like to start this meeting off this evening by reading the land acknowledgement. As we gather this evening, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of the Petawawa Town Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Omama-Winini Petawawa people. We would like to thank the Omami-Winini people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all of the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years, and we wish to acknowledge our shared responsibilities in responding to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission 94 calls to action. Call to action 83. We call upon the Canada Council for the Arts to establish as a funding priority a strategy for Indigenous and non-Indigenous artists to undertake collaborative projects and produce works that contribute to the reconciliation process. Recent progress. The Canada Council supports work to renew the relationship between Indigenous artists and both Indigenous and non-Indigenous audiences. This work is furthering truth and reconciliation, decolonization, and helps foster a shared future free of discrimination. In 2020 to 2021, the Canada Council provided $28 million in funding to over 540 Indigenous artists. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in these items? Seeing none, we're going to jump right into it with the Fire and Emergency Services Report for the month of December. I'd like to invite Acting Deputy Chief Jamie Knott to give your report this evening. Oh, you're going to speak up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm going to accept this activity report for December 2025 as information. I'll start with acting fire chief comments. December 1st, we had an all staff meeting and the chief and myself attended. December 4th, acting chief crew had a meeting with the emergency management group to finalize emergency management group training for December 8th, and on December 8th, we conducted training. On December 10th, acting chief crew attended an environmental and climate change weather briefing, as well as on December 20th. In terms of incidents, it was a really good month. There was only 12 total. And nothing of any significance. I'll quickly go through them. We had an alarm activation, which was an OPP request, which turned out to be a strong propane order. We had some smoke alarm calls on Victoria Street on December 5th, one on Winston Avenue on December 11th. That was due to cooking. Petawawa Boulevard, we just called an alarm on December 14th. On Shad Street, we had faulty alarm on December 31st. We also had one on December 31st on Murphy Road. And in terms of motor vehicle collisions, we had two, both were on Petawawa Boulevard, both were minor in nature, just some fluid spills, no altercation, etc. We had some odd smell calls, we call them, on Civic Center Road. The plastic was burning coming from the kitchen. One on Sylvan Drive, which was a propane tank that was just filled, and one on Riverstone Trail, which was a phone that was charging and started to melt. We had one carbon monoxide call, and that was on Freebie Road on December 21st. In terms of training, platoon training was conducted on the 4th and 18th. Total of 23 personnel attended. In December, we tend to do a bunch of topics to catch up on. So we conducted training on our gas detectors. We did some ice water rescue on the off of the year. We went over the new 2026 CO alarm requirements and how it will apply to us. We did intro into some proposed equipment we got for high-rise or multi-level units. And we also did some training on the new legislation for cancer, heart injuries, and PTSD through the legislation. And we also discussed mental health awareness with our personnel. In terms of maintenance, minor maintenance on a few vehicles, some diagnostic checks, some lights, turn signals, buildings. We had our new exhaust system, aeration we call it, installed at Station 1. With equipment, a couple air packs were repaired, minor repairs on them, and we also sent 8 sets of bucket gear out for cleaning and testing. We do this annually. We get all our gear tested for NFPA requirements. In terms of fire prevention and inspections, there were only 8 total inspections, but 4 of them were follow-ups, mostly at businesses. Public relations, we had 2 personnel attend the tailgate market on December 6th to man the fire there for the festivities. And that brings us to our totals for carbon monoxide and smoke alarm checks. We did 10, brings us a total of 290 checks this year. And our burn permits, we are now sitting at 917 for the year. And that is my report for December. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you very much, Jim. I noticed that you did an invitation to the ice water rescue training, and I'm not upset with it. So thanks.
Well, you were missed.
Okay, questions on the report? Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Deputy Chief. Can you just maybe explain to our residents the expectations of the new fire prevention regulations for in regards to your CO2 detectors, please? Thank you.
Yes, for sure. So as of January 1st, 2026, province came down with new legislation for new laws for CO alarms. This is only in respect to CO alarms. We always had laws in place when it came to that. It's just a little bit more stringent when, so basically, it mirrors what the smoke alarm is. So if you have any fuel burning appliances within your home, that can be propane, natural gas, wood stove, you require CO alarms. Or if you have an attached garage, you also need a CO alarm. The old one was you just need them outside in sleeping quarters. Now they changed it that you need it on every single level of the home.
Thank you for that. Very important. Thank you.
Councilor Kernan.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Thanks for the report, Jamie. Just with respect to the telephone burden, I don't think I've ever seen that reported in any of these reports over the years. It's something that people do all the time. Any details on
that? Yes. So the details from the call, the individuals charging their phone if they notice it started smoking and swelling up. Yes, we haven't come across it too often. I imagine we might come across it a bit more. I have heard of cases out there that stuff happening. That's even with laptops or anything that has a charging cord. We always recommend that when you're buying any charging cord, that you make sure it's an approved cord, such as ULC. So, yeah.
Any further questions on the report? Okay, I see none. I need a motion. Moved by Councilor Lewis, seconded by Councilor Driscoll, that the Fire and Emergency Services monthly activity report be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks, Jim. Okay, moving on to Recreation, Culture, and Tourism monthly activity report for December. Colin Coyle. A very busy December, isn't it?
Hold on.
Good evening. I'm here with the recommendation that council accepts the monthly report with members' information. We had staff training. Sean completed with high five, the master's of trainings. Over the course of some of the grant applications, unfortunately, we weren't successful in enhancing access grant. Now I am working on something else that I'll bring forward to council in the next while about moving forward with access programs. So I'm hoping we can do that internally with the grant. We also applied within the grant submission for the student employment program, which will hopefully bring back, and that will be put forward to put a community ambassador, which will be programming over the course of the summer, as well as a seniors community grant application we run forward as well. Over the course of December for meetings, I was able to meet with the OBTA to further discuss and review what they're submitting to council, which will come with a staff report shortly, with regards to what they're able to do with the MAC fund that they receive from our through our deductions that they receive 50%. They were going to get a full report shortly, hopefully next month. I also had an opportunity to sit down with the staff at Bonisher Park with regards to the terrace and expanding what we do there, as well as a collaboration that they're going to be part of Water and Dirt this year. So they'll be hosting an event at the park that will be a canoe and hike. So this is a further partnership opportunity that we can do with Bonisher Park. Additionally, I met with Petawawa Heritage. It was an opportunity for us to sit down and I was able to aid them applying for that same student employment program. I try and do this every month or so, and the program that they have submissions to aid them, whether they get reviewed or forward them other grants that fit with what they do at the village. I was also able to attend the managers meeting this month. And additionally, I sat down with our supervisor for the canteen to review hours for the canteen, as well as additional staffing and a review of overall costing for the canteen and the services provided there. Furthermore, when you review the programs, you can see a continuation of programs that range from toddlers to children, families, and adults. We're still staying very busy with those programs on top of the events that we offer. Silver Threads continues to be very busy. You can see from the report that our programs, including Centrix and Stronger You, which are our fitness programs, are receiving high participation levels. Rhiannon is currently just completed an additional exercise certification, so that's another exercise program we're going to be able to offer over at Silver Threads. So we're anticipating, and I know a lot of seniors are keen to see another exercise program, so we're following up to try and meet the demand and need for that facility. As far as Water and Dirt, to follow up on Montshare, we're also adding locally in a partnership with End of the Leash, a Canine Cross event, which is basically run with your dog. So it's sort of like dog sledding without the sled. It's a growing popularity. I think we have lots of dogs and dog lovers in Petawawa, so I can already anticipate that that's going to be a sellout event. Additionally, we have some new events that are adding in there, the Valley Trail Riders, as well as a meeting with Heather from the OSPCA to bring back once again the doggy paddle this year and expand grow that event. And we're looking at currently, we went from 12 and 13 events, and we're anticipating 18 events this year, and I'm hoping I can stop at 20. Almost a cut off there. Other smaller events that took place at Silver Threads, they hosted a small piano and violin concert. They had 42 attendees. That raised $850 and food donations to the pantry. As well, they hosted the holiday dinner and dance with 89 attendees, which is a great turnout for that facility. The capacity was 90 anyway, so we sort of reached the capacity for that event. And last for the events, we had Marion Wright, which we had a record number of anyone who was at the Santa Claus Parade. We were pretty close to running out of space over at the mall. So it went off really well. It probably one of the most successful parades to date. And then additionally, we sold out the Christmas craft show. That always goes well, always sells out, and is always well attended. As far as rental activity, you can see from the numbers, these are consistent from year to year. We're pretty full on ice capacity and what's available and what we can sell, as well as banquet hall rentals, community free use, which is over at $100 in the basement, kitchen rentals as well, and additionally the lounge and the bar for members there as well. So we're staying consistent to what we see month to month or over the course of the year. And just before I close off the report for December, in the next 2 weeks, we will be hosting Cali Fever from the 4th to the 8th. To take that time to everyone to review the schedule and invite you out to many of the events that we're hosting this month. And that's my report for December.
Okay, a very busy December. I think you're proud of what was accomplished, but I'm glad it's over.
Well, it doesn't stop. The days of slow months don't exist anymore, but I'll be honest, I have a great team to do a lot to make that happen. It's not just what you see on this paper. I think that just is the focus of this work.
Yeah.
So thank you to the staff that I thought that good work.
Okay, questions on the report? Councillor Kuzi.
Thank you, Ms. Service. Thank you, Colin. Just a kudos to Sean for achieving her high five or part of her high five credential. I know that's a big win, but also a big ask for her. So congrats. I just want to ask about the canteen. How is the canteen doing?
So the canteen being what it is we're trying to find the best times to be open that would not, since it's an extra service, we're trying to ensure that we're not having staff there paid for 3 hours of time at minimum wage that equates to $60 give or take, and only bringing in $5. So I've been sitting down with Lana to review when our best times are, when availability is, looking at the margins on what's selling well, what doesn't sell, to try and reduce what we're purchasing, to try and produce as much money as we can off the margins that we have. So it's been a long process because it's more than just ticking a few boxes, but we're trying to find the best times available to do that. And I think we are moving forward on what's best for the community without causing the taxpayer extra dollars spent to a future revenue.
Deputy Mayor Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and all of you calling in regards to Rhiannon her additional classes. A really big thank you because core strength, the ability to recover for after slip trips and falls, keeping balance, are so critical as we age, and they really do have a nice rounded approach there. So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next, and I know that you will. And thanks so much.
Any other questions on the report? Just have a couple for the OBTA and the mat tax. And maybe just, I get a lot of questions, what is it, how does it work, how does it benefit us? Maybe just really briefly, just explain what the revenues were for 2025, and then how both entities can be used in the town and OBTA on our behalf.
So we're still finalizing this as of December 31st. The accommodated has 30 days to pay. So we come to the end of January when we'll have the full numbers. We've taken in an estimate, it's going to be over $200,000, sorry. And I think it's going to leave the town approximately, if my numbers are right, about $180,000 or for the municipality, as well as $100,000 for the OBTA. The OBTA's focus is advertising, marketing, and promotion. So we're looking at how we can reach a broader market. Reaching out, we've agreed that we want to take a small focus and not try and bite off more than we can chew by reaching out to Eastern Ontario, the Toronto, Montreal markets that are 3 and 4 hours away from us. So we'll be working on finalizing the marketing plan on how we can reach that community. I was just in Hamilton. I just got back a few hours ago. With a really positive review. So those are some of the things we'll be able to do for as far as reaching a broad spectrum. And then for our portion of the town, this can go towards, this council has approved that this will go towards recreation or tourism initiatives within the town for the community. So things like being able to put a portion of the funds from the municipality towards civic centers. And there's a large interest in Canada seeing an increase there because the town grows. And that's a free event. It's non-sponsored. It's all on the tax base. being able to grow that event without having to grow the dependency on the tax base. So we'll see some of the funds from that go towards that event and other printing and some advertising that we do that will be not our specialty. So it'll be a way to reach the community and benefit the tourism as well, to bring more dollars into the thing that hotels, going to gas stations, to bring more people in, so it benefits the community as well.
Right on. That's a real good news story. And it's great that the OVPA uses all those funds purposely direct towards the municipality and advertising what we have. Great news. Winter Carnival, yeah, everybody should be excited about that. It looks like we're going to have good weather for it. I'm very excited about the croquet cook-off. I was asking for that for years, and it's great that we're going to have it. Where is the croquet cook-off going to be?
So that'll be located right at the, right in front of the Civic Center, using the soccer field back end, so it has no impact on the soccer field. So if it has fields of grass underneath, it's sort of in that dead area behind the soccer fields. For anyone who doesn't know, it's crokinole and curling put together. Just you can picture a very large crokinole board. We're using junior curling blocks to do it. We're also partnering with the library on that, so very much in fashion that we've had partnerships with them to rent snowshoes. It'll be the same thing. So you'll be able to, and if we keep the weather, this will be able to go past just cabin fever. And you'll be able to go in with your library card and rent basically a little trolley that you can take out there with you of all the curling rocks to play and then return them with your library card. So this is also a great additional partnership with our library as well.
8 curling rocks, you'd almost need a forklift.
Junior ones.
So wait a wagon, so they're not too heavy. And just to comment on the seniors program, I think it's great that there's so much interest now and so much additional participation in all the activities over there. So great work on your behalf, and of course all the fun staff that have over there, the social grad seniors thing. That's fantastic. And yes, you mentioned the Santa Claus Parade. I just like, I guess, formally announce the winners of the best float in the Santa Claus Parade. I was able to deliver to them in person earlier this week, or last week, sorry. And they were very appreciative and astounded that their floats were the winner. So the 2025 winner of the best float in the Petawawa Santa Claus Parade was the Great 8 Empire. Yeah, and they're pumped. They're ready to defend their title already. Okay, any further questions? Oh. You caught me up there. It was one of the military ones. Truckers, oh, you're right, the second. And third place was the Rotary Club of Petawawa. Nice. Thank you for nudging me there. Any other questions on the report? Okay, then I need a motion to accept. Moved by Councilor Donovan, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sammer, that the Recreation, Culture, and Tourism monthly activity report be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It is carried. Thanks, Tom. Next, we have the dynamic duo from Public Works to present a report. PW-02-2026. Amendment to the extension to the service contract for the collection and transportation of various solid waste materials within the town of Petawawa. This is big news. January 1st, 2026 finally arrived, and we have our new collection system in place. We're very excited to hear about this.
Okay, so thank you for having me tonight. As Mayor Service mentioned, we did achieve that milestone with the new blue box regulation and the new common collection system that was implemented January 1, 2026, fully operated, funded by the producers. However, there are some exclusions which apply to this report. So I will just skip over the recommendation and come back to that at the end. Just starting on the background. As everyone is aware, we have an existing service contract with Miller Waste to collect various solid waste material in the town. That includes garbage, green carts, yard waste, recycling.
and bulk items. So that service contract was authorized through bylaw 971-15. And then we further amended that in 2025 just to extend the contract for 2 one-year additional periods. So that is taking us to the end of March 31, 2027. At the time of the execution of bylaw 1757-25, which extended the service contract, we had not included pricing for the non-eligible recycling collection, just because there was still unknowns of the whole blue box transition and some of the information that was lack thereof at the time. And then it just allowed us more time knowing that the producers were still going to co-collect recycling between the eligible and non-eligible sources. So now we're coming before you with that pricing. Just to recap, what is a non-eligible source? So a non-eligible source are properties with the uses of industrial, commercial, institutional, or municipal and community buildings, daycares, places of worship, seasonal campgrounds and trailer parks, commercial farms, and not-for-profit organizations. So these are all the uses and properties that producers do not want to collect from, they do not want to fund the recycling of their material, they want them to pay. The new blue box system only applies to the residential properties, the residential households. So prior to Jan 1, 2026, under the old system, it was split funding between producers and municipalities, 50-50, and municipalities were responsible for collection. As part of that, we were permitted to co-collect recycling between the eligible and non-eligible sources. However, after Jan 1, 2026, municipalities, if they want to continue to offer collection of their non-eligible sources, are not able to have it co-collected with the eligible recycling. Same recycling, different sources, but this is not what we want. So the decisions municipalities that did offer the service have had to make include continuing to provide it as a separate service, or tell their non-eligibles that they're discontinuing the service, and the non-eligibles would be responsible for making arrangements of their own collection with private contractors for their garbage and recycling. Also last year, which kind of threw a curveball in all of this, was the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, or better known as the NECP, posted what they call an environmental registry that proposed amendments to the, not the blue box regulation, but the act that governs it. And one of the amendments was for producers or their producer responsible organizations to make offers to municipalities to continue small business collection. And Circular Materials, which is one of the producer responsible organizations, and you've heard them in names and seen some of their ads in promotion, they provided municipalities in August a draft service proposal to continue collection for small businesses. So many municipalities commented on that. We reviewed it as county staff and found that it just fell short of what we could manage on our own. Within their draft proposal, there was caps on the number of eligible sources you can include, or non-eligible sources you can include. And this would just lead to municipalities having to pick who's in, who's out. There was also limits as to how much they would put out on the curb. We don't like limits, and the more you can recycle, the better. Just keeps it out of the landfills. So after seeing their draft proposal in August, we just decided to continue our negotiations with More Waste for the pricing to do it on our own. And then eventually the ministry posted their final decision in December, actually on December 22, 2025, days before this whole transition came into effect. So you can see some of the late decisions that we were working with and the unknown that I was talking about before. So in order to approve this pricing, because we had an existing contract executed through a bylaw, because we amended that contract to extend the contract to another bylaw, because that bylaw did not include the pricing, all we're coming before you with is a new bylaw to amend previous bylaw to include pricing. In order to negotiate the most economical pricing for the rest of this contract to continue the service of the NES collection, we had to work with some other municipalities, including the ones we have this joint contract with, but some others in Renfrew County. However, some changes had to be made to the collection because we could no longer co-collect it with the regular residential collection. So that ended up making our route on Friday, so all our businesses, all their recycling would be put out on Friday, but the garbage and green carts would remain on the same day that they were scheduled on the residential cycle. We also had to flip the recycling stream that our businesses were used to. So again, it's opposite from the residential collection cycle. So when the residents put out their yellow bins, our businesses are putting out their blue bins. And this all started Friday, January 9th. As I mentioned, for the businesses, there's still no change to their garbage and green cart collection. Those will remain on the regular day, co-collected with the residential. So what is this going to cost? So the pricing we got from North Waste was $29.25 per stop per month. We currently had 74 stops at the time of negotiations, and we're still sitting around 74 stops. Usually in a year, we see a change of 2 to 3 stops. So with that change, it wouldn't affect any kind of pricing that Miller would want. One of their conditions was if your stops go down, they would like to renegotiate the pricing, but you can always add more stops. I don't foresee many stops going down for us. So $29.25 per stop per month will be in effect from January 1 of this year to December 31st of this year, and then CPI added to that for the first 3 months of 2027, which takes us to the end of our contract extension. For the collection of the material, so all that material collected from the NES stops will be going to the Waste Recovery Center, the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center, where Ontario Environmental is now the operator of the recycling depot there. So they are now charging their tipping fees. And based on some of the verbal conversations and emails that we have with Ontario, like they're basically setting it at market rate, so it could change. So that's kind of the unknown, trying to estimate how much it's going to cost us to process the material that's collected. But right now, at this point, we're looking at about $2,500. So the total estimate for the collection and the processing of the material, we're estimating at $37,500, and that's to the rest of the contract. So that's 2026 plus the first 3 months of 2027. Currently, to recover these costs, both on the residential side of garbage and organics, and on the non-eligible side of garbage, organics, and recycling, we just charge a flat rate. Our 2025 rate in the budget was $235. In order to cover the cost increase that we are seeing, we would likely have to increase the user fee for 2026. But by how much will be a budget decision in the 2026 budget. So we will present some options for that. But yes, it will just kind of depend on whether we want to try to cover that full cost, partial cost, just so that recognizing that costs do go up, but we don't want to put our businesses up too hard either. So we will present some rate options in the 2026 budget. So the recommendation for council is to approve the charges that have been negotiated, and we will amend our existing bylaw and another bylaw that will be presented at the next council meeting. I'll take any questions.
All I have to say, Trevor, that's a very complicated process, and you must have had to do a lot of research. That is confounding to most people, but I must say you explained it quite clearly. I guess you went through there. I was following and understanding. But just before I open it up for questions, just one bit of clarity here. So I know that they were talking of negotiating a separate deal just for the small businesses, which we rejected because it was too complicated. So now what we're talking about here in terms of the NES is everybody, small business, commercial, school, all those other NESs are all lumped into one category, including the small business. Is that correct?
Correct. If these non-eligible, there are definitions in the regulation as to what is the non-eligible. Where it gets a little tricky is if they have mixed use, so if there are residential units also on that property, the producers are obligated under the regulation to service those residential. You can imagine that everyone's just going to put it out at the curb in one spot, and the poor truck driver or the collection driver is not going to know who's recycling the seeds. So we still have no details on how circular material and the producers are going to manage that. So it does make it a little tricky, but yes, the reality is all those non-residential properties are considered non-eligible, and it's up to them whether they want to make arrangements for private collection or participate in the program that we are also offering.
Just to add to the need, because I know we have a commercial development plan that has 2 floors of apartments over top of it. So in other words, when that garbage goes up, it's going to be hard to determine who's it is. And I feel a bit for the NES category because they've changed the dates. You don't just put everything out on your day. Now it's recycling on this day and garbage on the other day. It's just confusing as well. Okay, now that we have that straightened out, question. Councilor Kerrigan.
Thank you for your service. Trevor, you never disappoint. I read this report and then took myself a little legend of all the acronyms and what they meant. And went back and read it again. Referenced all the bylaws and the Ontario regs and that, and I think I got it. But the recommendation, I'm okay with the recommendation that you come up with, and as the mayor said, the only concern that I would have is the fact that it's a little more confusing for the people, you know, what's going out when, where. I have a hard enough time remembering one day every couple of weeks, but it's, that was my only concern, but I'm sure you guys came up with the best option available, so I'm confident that we're good going forward with this. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor said.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll echo what James started with. I read this a few times, and I have to say, I really appreciated your explanation. It's that much clearer. So I guess the only, I'm glad that we're addressing the non-eligible sources. I think that's really important. I think it's really important for our business community that we support them through this process as well. I guess my only concern in this will, as you said, come before budget. At a flat rate, we have to generate $37,500 or thereabouts, and that shared amount of 74 businesses plus or minus is fairly steep. So I guess we will talk about that at budget if we were to just split it that way. But I think it's really great that we're able to include. I really like the fact that we're separating the streams. It is fraught with other issues when there's combined uses and properties. However. You know, we've been thrown into this without a whole lot of opportunity to build our own path, and I think we'll hit the issues as they come, and together we'll work to resolve them. So thanks again for all your work.
Just for clarity on the Deputy Mayor's question about the individual fee that we're charging and the $37,500 that we have to make up for in cost, is that going to be spread across every stop in the town, that $37,500, or just the NES? Or I guess do we not know how we're doing it yet?
We are working, or will be working with finance to figure out how best to recover that cost or smooth it out. There's pros and cons to both, you know, whether residential should be offsetting that, but then the other end is, do we want recyclable material winding up in the landfill? by discouraging businesses from recycling and just going to garbage collection and throw it all in. So, pros and cons. We will debate and hopefully settle on something that works for everyone and fair in the 2026 budget. And just kind of commenting on some of that, the routing options. I'll just touch on what Miller was proposing with us, is they wanted our partners, Pembroke, LD, and Petawawa, because they could service one truck for all the MAS stops that we had in one day. So their proposal was one truck, same material, which didn't work for LD and Petawawa because Pembroke was opposite us. So we had to make the change because we have fewer MAS stops. So I know it is confusing. We are reaching out to the businesses, emailing them, send them a graphic of the January schedule. We are working with the Ottawa Valley Waste Charter Center to prepare a separate collection calendar just for the MS that will have the recycling and the garbage and the organic collections. So that's in production. I'm thinking I'm going to have to contact the MS again and say, here's your February schedule until we get that collection calendar. So we are trying to do things to get the word out there. Even Miller Waste knows that when change happens, it takes a couple weeks to work itself out. So we're trying our best to get the word out, and we will be using social media. And we launched our new website, so we're trying to get that updated with the new information. So trying to make it easier on the businesses, but it is a change, but it's a short term for 1 year, 3 months. And then hopefully we'll get it all sorted out better in the next month.
Okay, further questions? On the report? Nothing else? I have one question about the yellow bin, blue bin, and a bit of confusion with the yellow bin and blue bin. And apparently we won't be selling yellow bins in the future. As they get phased out, slowly phased out, it will all be blue bins all the time. And I guess the concerns that I had expressed to me from members of the public is that the yellow bin, you can fit a lot of recyclables in, the blue bin you can't. So I don't know if there's a proposal that's there for taller blue bins, or you just have to buy more blue bins.
I'll tell you some of the things. I'm not going to get this all to HR for the rollout of the common collection system, it's going to take time. Like, you have municipalities all across Ontario with different collection programs. So one of the goals, and I applaud it, is that they're trying to make it consistent across the province, wherever you are. Same materials can be recycled, same sort of collection, but realizing that we have vast geographical area and municipalities have different styles of collection. Some have the big totes that you dump, others have blue bins, others sorted in different streams with containers and the paper and fiber, and we had a yellow bin. So one of the very few that we were a different color. But what we're seeing so far is that the common system is still not as common as what they advertise. So it's getting there, but it's a change, and it's probably going to take some time to work itself out.
I do say that a lot of the feedback I'm getting is that the public is very appreciative of the expansion of the recyclables that are collected, plastic bags and chip bags and cereal bags. I think it's great that all of that stuff is not going to end up in the landfill. So in terms of reducing the amount of material that goes to the landfill, I think this is a win for everybody. And as the deputy mayor said, I think it's important that as a municipality we do support our small business, commercial, industrial, schools, and all the libraries, everybody else that's in the MES category, that we didn't just throw them to the wolves and say, work out your own deals. You're part of that municipality and we should support it and do what we can to organize it. It's confusing because the rolling out is going to be.
But we're in the same boat.
Yeah. Okay, any further questions? Okay, so you've seen the motion. If you're comfortable, I need a motion to move. Moved by Councillor Roots, seconded by Councillor Carmody. The council approves the charges for the collection and transportation of recyclable materials from designated properties that are not considered eligible sources, as defined in Ontario Regulation 391/21 blue lots within the town of Petawawa for the periods identified from January 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2026, and from January 1st, 2027 to March 31st, 2027, and that a bylaw to amend bylaws 971/15 and 1757/25 be presented at the next council meeting to authorize the execution of a subsequent amendment to Schedule 2 charges of Appendix A to bylaw 971/15 as amended by bylaw 1757/25 to include the approved charges. We'll need a little tutorial just to understand the recommendation. So council understood that and is willing to recommend it. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It is carried. Thanks again, Trevor and Chris. Okay, next we have PW-03-2026, award of tender. PW-03-2025, Norman Street access to Petawawa Boulevard. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor Service, and thanks again, Trevor. Good job on the NES. So tender PW-03-2025 was prepared and advertised in a local paper, on our website and social media pages. There were 12 general contractors picking up the tender documents, and 6 were received on the closing date of December 18th, 2025 at 10 a.m. The respective bids are summarized in the chart provided. Those tender prices were for both parts A and B. I will explain that a little bit further in the report, but obviously the recommendation amount is a different amount, but we'll get to that. The attached tender report from JP2G Consultants breaks down the project costs that were divided in Part A and Part B, as I mentioned, and the chart below, which I've provided in the report, is taken from the JP2G report and simplifies the project costs. So essentially, for the purposes of this council report and the financial recommendation associated, we are looking at Part A only. Part B was a provisional item that was included in the tender, which was the parking lot portion, and we will bring that back as a budgetary consideration in the 2026 budget. So Part A, the scope of work, includes the Norman Street access road construction, which includes the concrete island on Petawawa Boulevard and the PXO crossing. Part A also includes the additional street lighting, the Petawawa letter sign site preparation, and new water line to service future landings tied to the Kitty Land redevelopment. For example, the Container Market. The reason to include that water line in this part of the construction process is, regardless of what we do with the parking lot, the water main needs to go underneath the parking lot, so it needs to go in there. It can stay a gravel parking lot, but eventually it will get paved. So we'll get that water line in now, and then we don't have to worry about it. So the original budget, and also I should mention on page 27 of your report, you have a fairly good drawing that I included. These were the issued for tender drawings that JP2G provided, and it shows you essentially Part A being the road construction and PXO, and Part B being the parking lot. Just a little visual to bring you back up to speed, seeing as this process has gone on for so long. And it's been a while since we had a public discussion on this. So the original budget set in 2025 did not include the water line. It did not include the street lighting upgrades or the letter sign site prep or the PXO. So from a staff perspective, I think we're getting really good bid pricing here. It was a late season tendering, so I think we benefited from that. I discussed Part B, so we'll just skip past that. So for financial implication, the estimated construction budget for this project was $526,409, excluding HST, and was included in the approved 2025 budget. The project was funded from the Canada Community Building Fund, or CCBF. So to proceed with Part A, we require some additional funding in the amount of $100,000. $70,000 is required for engineering support, design alterations, and contracting in, and $30,000 is included for project contingency. So in order to move this process forward, Public Works Department held meetings with the Finance Director to discuss the additional funds required to proceed with Part A, and this can be accomplished by using unspent CCDF monies. So staff require council to pre-approve the project cost for Part A as a 2026 capital project. And that brings us to the recommendation. Staff are seeking council approval of tender PW03 2025 North Street Access, Petawawa Boulevard Part A, to the lowest bidder being Bonashare Excavating Inc. in the amount of $524,938.24. And the council approves an additional $70,000 for design alteration, engineering support, and construction administration. And the council approves $30,000 for project contingency for a total project cost of $624,938.24, excluding HST.
Okay, thanks, Chris, and thanks for all the visuals. It really helped describe what was going on. It's great to see this finally coming forward. I know it took a while, there were many delays with the property acquisition. So it's great to finally get that resolved and to see this project coming forward. It's going to be a fabulous addition to the town of Petawawa. I don't know if we've had anything quite so groundbreaking or something that altered the landscape of the town quite this big. And again, it's all about the first steps and the phases and the reimagination of this whole area. Okay, I'll open it up to questions from the council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chris, for bringing this forward. I'm totally in support of this. I really like the vision of the second phase as well, because it gives us an idea where we need to be to move this forward. And this is something that I'm a big supporter of. This is the next phase of where our town is going to be. So thank you. And like I said, I will be supporting that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Further questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For you to Chris, just looking at the financial picture. So the original budget did, and identified what it didn't include, and that was great. Did the original budget include the contingency, design alterations, engineering support, and construction, and administration? I think that's an unusual part, but I just want to get clarity on that first, and you go ahead.
So through the chair to Deputy Mayor Sauer, no, typically the budget that's in the capital plan is for construction only. It typically doesn't include engineering or contingency. We usually bring that back after award, because we decide on the contingency amount based on the actual tender award. So you have to tender first to have a better understanding of the budget. So typically the construction costs in the budget are construction only.
Okay, thanks for that. So I guess when I'm looking at budgets, then now I have to look at saying, okay, that might be an extra 10 to 12% on top of that for these types of contingencies, and try to figure out how to do that in my head when I come to budget. But can you describe for me so I understand what could potentially be a design alteration? I'm under standard contract administration and engineering support, but if there's and what contingency you might need. I know it's only $30,000 of a $500,000 project, but I just want to get a picture for that in my head, please.
Sure. Okay, so as far as the contingency allowance, it's usually for unforeseens. Like for example, when you're excavating, you run into a bell vault that or a massive conduit that you didn't know was there. Some unforeseen construction condition, water, different ground condition that you can't see because you don't know until you excavate. So that's really the contingency. But in this case, you're seeing a $30,000 contingency, which shows that there's been a pretty long process in regards to this construction project. So I'm not foreseeing really too much in the way of unknowns. As far as the design alterations and the contracting in, the design alterations will probably be minimal in this, but there are still working with the county for the trail crossings. There could be some alterations there. It could be the contractor in our initial kickoff meeting say, what we're seeing in your drawing that isn't really mixing properly, or maybe there's another piece of infrastructure that's in the way. it could require an alteration to the drawing. And then as far as the contract in, it's typically for contract in, and for the site supervision. Again, I'm not seeing too much in the way of design alterations because we've had a fairly long time to develop this design, so.
Thank you, Chris, I really appreciate that. I'm definitely in agreement with moving forward with this, and I just need those pieces of all place.
Councillor Kernan.
Thank you, Mayor Service. So, thanks for bringing the report forward, Chris. This is great. I'm fully in support of this project. However, this is probably the fourth, fifth time in this budget cycle we've been asked for pre-approved funds for a budget which is like we're a mere couple of weeks away from budgeting for our 2026 year, and we're being asked to dip into that budget 2-3 weeks in advance, which, as I say, it's a developing pattern that I'm seeing, and that's not typically the way that we have spent or budgeted money in the past. And I would just like to know, why can we not wait a little bit on this and approve those funds as part of our 2026 budget?
Okay, so through the chair, certainly council can decide to not move ahead. The only challenge we would have is the bid prices that we have with the contractor are only valid for a 60-day term. So if we don't award, I believe it's 60 days. So if we don't award by a certain date, essentially we lose that pricing. But again, it's entirely council's decision as to whether they want to proceed or not.
How far in is the 60 days for this?
It was early February.
It closed December 18th, so
Yeah.
February, mid-February.
Any questions? No more thoughts on that, Councillor Kernan? Councillor Kuzin.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Thank you very much, Chris, for bringing this forward. I agree with Marie. I've been supported this, and further the financing question. I see we use Canada Community Building Fund monies to fund this project, and we now have unspent CCDF money, so I'm comfortable applying that unspent money to a project that we're funding with that money in case, being that it's going to really, really revitalize that area of town and bring a truly incredible future.
I will just add that, and I hate to compare ourselves to the county, but before Christmas, Renfrew County approved $60 million in their capital budget, in the 2026 capital budget in December, in order to get tenders out early and get favorable pricing on the tenders. Further questions? Everybody good? Okay, so the recommendations, do I need to read these for everybody? Is everybody going to? Okay, so I need a motion. Moved by Councilor Root, seconded by Councilor Coutu. The council approves the award of tender PW-03-2025 Norman Street access to Petawawa Boulevard Part A to the lowest bidder being Bonashare Excavating Incorporated in the amount of $524,938.24. And the council approves an additional $70,000 for design alterations, engineering support, and construction administration. And the council approves $30,000 for project contingency for a total project cost of $624,938.24, excluding HST. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thanks, Chris, for that report. Welcome. I know Christine Mitchell will be very excited. She sure will. To get this one with me. Yeah, somebody just logged on. Okay, next we have PW-04-2026. Petawawa Council request for speed limit reduction on Durham Road, County Road 26 between Highway 17 and Murphy Road which is County Road 37, in the town of Petawawa. Thanks, Chris, for putting this one together.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Service. We'll start as always with a bit of background and we'll go from there. So the town's Public Works Department was requested through the CAO's office and in communications with the mayor in 2025 to investigate current speed conditions on Dawn Road, better known as County Road 26, within the town boundaries. So this request came after the mayor received some public inquiries regarding lower speed limits on Dawn Road that were implemented temporarily by the county renter during the 2025 rehabilitation of Dawn Road. The section of Dawn Road between Black Bay Road and Murphy Road was lowered to 50 kilometers per hour during the construction. The Dawn Road, County Road 26, a little bit of background, is an arterial road under the authority of the county of Radford and acts as a connector between major routes, extends from Whit Road in the township of Laurentian Valley and crosses Round Lake Road, which is County Road 58, Grand Canyon Road, County Road 28, Provincial Highway number 17, before entering the town of Petawawa. Within the town of Petawawa, Dawn Road intersects with Acker Road, Airport Road, Black Bay Road, Murphy Road, County Road 37, and ends at Petawawa Boulevard, County Road 51. The current speed limit conditions on Dawn Road within the town of Petawawa are as follows. 80 kilometers an hour from Highway 17 to Black Bay Road, and the speed limit drops at Black Bay Road to 60 kilometers an hour. The speed limit continues at 60 kilometers an hour until you hit Murphy Road, where it then drops to 50 kilometers an hour. And that continues until the end of the road at Petawawa Boulevard. So for the purposes of this report, it will mainly be focused on the section between Highway 17 and Black Bay Road, and the section between Black Bay Road and Murphy Road. So I've provided some average daily traffic counts, a little bit of background information for council consideration. So we have in 2022, our town radar devices reported an average daily traffic of 3,730 vehicles near the Doran Road Herman Street intersection within the 50 kilometer an hour zone. And in June of 2023, our town data reported an average daily traffic of 2,756 vehicles between, I made a mistake here in my report, I apologize. That shows a Cardinal Crescent and Stephen Street, not parallel. And this was within the 60 kilometer per hour zone. In 2025, County Renter provided town staff with some additional average daily traffic data from 2024. Similar numbers, 3,200 vehicles per day on Dawn Road near the Herman Street zone, which is a 50 kilometer an hour zone, and 2,800 vehicles per day on Dawn Road at Black Bay Road. So I provided some additional data on number of entrances. So the county, if council decides to move forward with a dedicated traffic study through the county, they always look at number of entrances. And I focused on the section between Dawn Road from the highway to Black Bay Road because that's an 80 kilometer an hour zone, and when you compare it with Biesenthal or Airport or Black Bay Road, those are all 60 kilometer per hour zones. So I would imagine that's probably going to be one of the focuses of this discussion on whether we lower that speed or request for a speed reduction. So the number of entrances are similar. And as well, I provided school bus stops. There are 11 on Dawn Road between Highway 17 and Black Bay Road. And I provided the school bus stops of some comparable roads that are 60 kilometer an hour zone roads on Biesenthal Airport and Black Bay Road. I should just add that there are 6 additional stops between Black Bay Road and the Boulevard. So there are actually 17 bus stops in total on that section of Dawn Road. So, as far as discussion, Dawn Road is one of the few remaining 80 kilometer an hour roads within our community. And I agree that it's good that we discuss our community, look at our road network, including county roads, and have a wholesome discussion on how 80 kilometer roads fit in our community, especially when we look at growth. And this has come up in discussions with the CAO and the mayor. When you look at the Vacu subdivision that's coming online, which is currently in a 60-kilometer-an-hour zone, we have 257 single detached units, along with 20 semi-detached units that are being developed as part of that subdivision. Along with that, we have both Jade and Onyx, which will be intersecting roads with Dorn Road. One of them is open right now, Jade, which is currently open to access, and Onyx, which is part of a future phase. So you are going to see increased traffic in that 60-kilometer-per-hour zone. So town staff, we've done this before. We've gone through a wholesome review in 2024 with regards to the boulevard, and I think it was a worthwhile discussion. And it resulted in that speed limit being dropped from Golf Course Road to Sylvie Drive. And I included those previous reports for information. We've also held some preliminary discussions with the County of Brantford in regards to Dorn Road and possible speed limit alterations. So as part of this review, the Town Public Works Department requested a 5-year motor vehicle collision statistics report from the OPP detachment. And this information was shared with the County of Brantford, seeing as they are the road authority in charge of County Road 26. And there was some initial feedback from the County of Brantford. So the OPP report cited that only 9% of reported incidents in 5 years were cause related to speed. The County of Brantford also cited that there are not enough entrances on Dorn Road to change the current road classification. So the initial assessment by the county was they felt that speed reduction was not warranted, but that was similar feedback to what we received when we had a wholesome discussion about Boulevard as well. So town staff have reviewed the OPP data and the traffic count data, as well as the bus stop data, entrance data, and I do believe that a discussion is warranted, and this brings us to the table that's provided to members of council on page 40. So to set the stage for council to discuss this, it's important to go back to understanding the segments that we're talking about on Dorn Road. So we're essentially looking at from the highway to Black Bay Road, which is currently an 80 zone, and from Black Bay Road to Murphy Road, which is currently a 60 zone. Now, what I did in the table was I further broke that down into 2 more segments. So I used Airport Road. It's kind of the midsection when you go from the highway to Black Bay Road, and Airport Road is kind of right in the middle. So there's an option there for council to deliberate whether you drop the speed gradually, and I provided those options within the report. As well, I provided Derrick Drive as an option on the Black Bay to Murphy Road section. And the reason why I used Derrick Drive is that it's the first road that meets Dorn Road, past Black Bay Road, where you consider yourself entering the town proper, essentially, because you cross Derrick, Stafford, Cardinal actually hits Dorn twice, Cardinal Crescent, and then coming up as Jade and Onyx. So again, for council deliberation, I thought Derrick Drive is an important consideration when we're looking at possible speed reductions. So as far as financial implication, there's only $750 charge for the traffic study, which can be handled through our operating maintenance budget. And I guess at this time, I'd like to turn it over to council to have a discussion and provide staff with some guidance. I do have a couple of my choices, but maybe council will take that away from me to say anything. So I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Chris. That was a lot of work, and thanks for bringing this report forward. As we did just last year, that we deliberated on Petawawa,
2024.
2024. Yeah, when we deliberated these. The deliberation, of course, should always center around public safety and the safety of our residents. And reduction in speed helps with the safety of our residents. I'll just make a comment on the county. it seems like just about every month, there's a report coming forward at the county level on one of the 17 municipalities, and they're asking for a reduction in speed on various sections of various roads, or they're asking for a community safety zone. And I don't want to be critical of the county, they have a formula that they have to use, and it's based on the number of entrances and the speed and all of that sort of thing, and they apply their formula to each specific request. And generally, when they come back with a report, their recommendation is that speed does not get reduced, just based on the formula and the number of entrances and whatever else goes into the formula. What it doesn't take into account is the unique characteristics of the community and all of those different aspects that come into play, as well as potential for future development. And I think on this road, there's a large potential for future development. We've seen a lot of new homes built on Dorn recently. We see dual construction, clearing some land to put in something else, and there are a lot of available empty lots. You did make a comment again on the Mackey Estates, that there is now Jade that connects, and eventually Onyx will connect. So there'll be another connecting road there, and another, maybe Melanie can correct me if I'm wrong, but another couple hundred homes will be going in that subdivision, which will all create an increase in traffic along there. Okay, I just thought I'd give that preamble and now open it up for questions. Councilor District.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chris, I was wondering if we put the black hat speed monitor, give some of the speed statistics for Dorn Road. I know it's back and maybe the Boulevard, had our speed statistics for that, but we just have enough speed statistics for this.
So through the chair to Councilor Driscoll, yeah, we do have just the, I only included the average daily traffic counts. We do have some speed statistics. I would have to provide those to council, but from my recollection, I don't believe they showed an exorbitant amount of speeding.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to say I'm definitely not for lowering it to 60. We don't have a speeding problem, not that we can see, unfortunately. The OPP at a 9% in 5 years, due speed, very low. The county's saying they don't need it, and we can talk about future development, this and that. It hasn't happened yet. So when it happens, if there's an issue then, we can drop the speed limit at that point. Not opposed to your idea from Derek to Murphy, dropping to a 50 with the intersections from there, and that housing development under construction. I'd be open to that, but the fact that we're looking at lowering the speed limit for a road that doesn't have issues, I just don't think it's warranted.
Any questions? Councilor Graham.
Thank you for your service. So I have a couple of things, a little variation on what you proposed here. Something that I've noticed in the past is that speed limit drops from 80 to 60 right at Black Bay Road. And over the years, we've had some pretty nasty motor vehicle collisions at Black Bay and Dorn. As a matter of fact, there was even a fatal a number of years ago at that intersection. It would have been outside of the 5-year window that you were talking about. So what I would like to see is 80 kept from the highway to a location which is backed off from Black Bay Road, so that traffic is slowing. The problem with where the transition from 80 to 60 happens now is it's too close to Black Bay Road, and the traffic is still flying when it hits Black Bay Road. So I'm proposing back up that point at which we drop the limit and drop it to 50 at that point. But no base down, or possibly if you want to have a very short base down area, similar to what we have on Murphy Road, where you're going 80, and then you've got a very short 60, followed by an entrance into 50, possibly something like that. I would be in favor of something like that. But basically, in an effort to slow that traffic down, before if it's a Blackberry Road or something.
Other questions? Councillor Donovan?
Thank you, service to Chris. Thank you, Chris, for the information that you put forward to us. Concurring with the mayor's comment with regards to safety in that area, that subdivision is we're halfway through. We've got a lot of vehicles coming in. They're being sold. People are moving in. The kids within those subdivisions will be attending school with kids on the other side of the road. So that road will be getting busier as obviously as that subdivision does. So I think it would be appropriate to look at modifying the speeds that are there at this time. I hadn't thought about Councillor Carney's thought with regards to Blackberry Road, but I think that does warrant some good thought. This would be the opportune time to be looking at that. So I really support the reduction in speed, certainly from Murphy up to Black Bay, but possibly including an extension further out towards the highway.
Deputy Mayor Sandler?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I live on that road and I walk a lot in that area, and I'm probably spoken to at least 2 or 3 times every couple of weeks about the speed on Warren Road and about the safety. And when the county was doing its prepaid job and the speed limits were reduced, people were really happy, and a number of folks asked if that could remain. At that point, I happened to see Peter appointed in one of his rounds and had brought that forward to him as well, and said, you know, this is, I think, something we should definitely be looking at. It's a busy road. It's getting to be an even busier road. We've got folks that are going out of Derrick just to drive down the road, just to beat the traffic to get wherever they need to go. So we're seeing those kinds of roads used in ways now that I've never seen them used before. I would absolutely support a speed reduction, and I think it's just in the safety and well-being. I don't believe that, I think you said it was Jade Street. I don't believe that's assumed by the municipality as of yet. Once it does get assumed by the municipality, that is going to be busy, and there's a lot of kids in those areas, a lot of young families, which is really exciting for our community, and we need to be mindful of what we need to put in place for them. So I guess the only other thing that I would like to add is exactly what James said, which is where the current speed changes near Black Bay doesn't give much reaction time. You either start speeding up right before you get to Black Bay, or you start decelerating right as you're at Black Bay, and I think that backing up is well thought change. So I would also support that. Thank you.
Just a comment before we carry on about the 9% of the accidents being related to speed, which I understand is a very low percentage. But if you're in an accident going 60 as opposed to an accident going 80, the 80 km/h accident is often much more violent and more deadly. So I know it's only 9%, but if only 9% of those accidents were at 60 km/h as opposed to 80, you'd have a lot less damage and injury. Councillor Goodman?
Thank you, Mayor Service. Thank you very much, Chris, for putting this all together and bringing it forward. I have to say I agree with Mayor and Deputy Mayor and Councillor Donovan, and I certainly agree with Councillor Carmody. I think that a graduated reduction might be in order. So my proposal, when I was thinking about this earlier, was sort of viewing those 4 different blocks as a way to slow everything down before you hit Petawawa proper. So Highway 17 to Airport leaving at 80, Airport with Black Bay creating at 70, and then Black Bay Road to Derrick, they're at 60, and then Derrick to Murphy, they're at 50. So that was my proposal. I think that might create the outputs that are looking for. Thank you.
A lot of different speeds. Further comments? Deputy Mayor Sandler?
Sorry, there was one more thing that I did want to make mention of. We don't have any sidewalks from Derrick out to Highway 417. And the sidewalks that we do have, because of when they were constructed and when they were built, there are many periods of time during the year, so if there's a lot of snow, they're impassable. People have to go onto Doran Road, or the spring fog, they're also impassable, so they have to go onto Doran Road. So I think that that just is another reason why I would support a speed reduction. While I admire Councillor Coutue's graduated reduction, I think for me, I'm a simple person. 1 speed, 2 speed, and that's it, would work for me. However, I'll be happy with the reduction. Thanks so much.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chris. Yes, and I'm seeing more activity now on that road as well with walkers, bicyclers, and yes, I think it warrants a speed reduction as we have growth here now in our town in that area. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. I feel like James' idea was starting earlier, somewhere for like 8 or something, would slow it down for the intersection. But, if everyone interested in a speed reduction, what is your speed reduction idea? Because this has multiple options. Are you thinking 60 right from Highway 17 to a 50? Or are you thinking an 80 to an earlier setback of Black Bay Road? I'm just kind of seeing where everyone's at with that because, yeah.
Any comments on Councillor Driscoll's question? I think Chris would want to weigh in first while the councillors gather their thoughts.
Yeah, maybe I can assist because I've been writing frantically here. So I think I'm getting a pretty clear picture that from Derrick to Murphy is supported to be at 50.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's perfect. That's why I try to break it into segments. I kind of also caught Councillor Carney, and I agree with his thought, backing the 60 up to airport. So instead of dropping from 80 to 60 at Black Bay Road, we would have it from starting at 60 at airport to Derrick. So that would be the 60 zone, drops to 50 at Derrick. So really the last segment that there's still a little discussion is, do you leave it from the highway to airport at 80 and drop it to 60, or do you request the county to consider a 70 coming off that, or do you make the whole thing 60?
If I heard correctly, I thought Councillor Carney wanted to back off from Black Bay Road up to, it's not called HMH, where Kavanaugh, I think Kavanaugh was that little area. Is that right? Or DI? Somebody else. Anyways, back it up before the stop sign to it and start at 50 there. Is that correct?
Yeah, I meant back it up, like maybe to where do all construction is or something, all the way to Airport Road. So I was thinking, leave it at 80 from the highway to, let's say, do all, drop it to 60 until you get to 50. Your modified version.
Okay. The reason why I use streets is it is easier to communicate it to the county as well. People identify speed reductions better when they see them at a defined position on the road rather than like a residence or a 911 number. That was why I used the airport, but we can modify it accordingly. But I think we are starting to get a consensus. That's kind of what I was getting at. So certainly the Derrick drive into Murphy, 50, backing up the current 60 zone. And then the remaining question is, what do we do with that section from the highway? So I'll let you continue, sorry.
Okay, so right now we're looking at 50 from Black Bay Road, starting at 60 sooner, so they have time to slow down before the intersection of Black Bay and Dorn. And the question is, where do we start at 60, the airport or at Highway 17? Is that what you think?
That's what I was hearing, yes.
Okay. So thoughts from members of council? And before I go any further, I will throw this one out to muddy the waters. So we have a great discussion here and a great deliberation going about what we would like to propose to the county. As part of this, do we want the county to do a speed road study before we send this request to them? So that's just something else to consider. Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do like the idea of leaving 80 coming off the highway. If we use Airport Road or you find a landmark along there to make the drop down to 60 and then add, Jamie? Derek. His brother Derek. Drop down to 50 at that point. That's what I would see.
Any other thoughts on that? Okay, so I'll go ahead and see it.
I was just going to suggest, I think that's a good starting point, that maybe what we should do is go ahead with the traffic study, have the county come back with the recommendations to make sure they coincide with what council's thinking here, because you made a point about where the intersections or where the speed zone should be reduced, typically at an intersection versus somewhere in the middle of the road. Maybe if we went to county with our suggestions, got their recommendations back, we might have a better understanding of really where to drop that 60 zone, like whether it's airport or halfway. So it might be worth the $700 and then bring the report back in a couple, well, how long does it take for traffic study sorry?
It could take anywhere from a month to 3 months, I would imagine. I would still recommend to council that it's worthwhile to present the county with something that the council as a whole is looking at. It's not saying that you have to do it, but it's providing the representatives of County Renfrew a better understanding of what we're looking for as a council. And of course, obviously, in my report to the county, I will touch on exactly what's been mentioned tonight, development, increased traffic, bus stops, public safety concerns within our community. And the bigger question that I think comes up when we talk about specifically 80 kilometers on, you know, and I know Mayor Service and I have spoke with this of late. Perhaps it is time for these 80 kilometer zones to be phased out within our town limits, which when we look at most municipalities, it's not that common to have 80 kilometer zones within town limits. So I can certainly provide either direction to the county. I believe the traffic study is certainly worthwhile. My understanding here is we're getting a good consensus on the 50 zone, backing up the 60 zone to around Airport Road. And then I'm understanding leaving the 80 zone coming off the highway. That's kind of the consensus I'm hearing. But again, if you can finalize it and then get a recommendation to staff, I can pass that on to the county.
I think you make a good point, Chris. It's important for us to make a request to the county, and then as part of their report back to us, they can do a traffic study. And they can say, look, we accepted your request, we did a traffic study, and here's our report based on what you requested. Because I think in the end, what does a traffic study do? It's just traffic counts, speed data, which we already have from a couple of years ago, so we can sort of extrapolate to where we are now. There's probably a few more cars on that road than there was 2 years ago. And the speeds probably haven't changed too much since 2 years ago. So I think it's a good idea that we come to some consensus tonight, send them a request, here's what we're looking at. And then they have to go and do their studies to determine whether or not they'll accept that report. I will say this though, and as I said earlier, that there's been, every month, there's been a speed reduction request from some municipality in this county. And the 17 members of Renfrew County Council, to a person, each time a request is put in, they all react the same way. They are all highly respectful of public safety. And they respect the fact that if the community is bringing forward a report that they would like a speed reduction, then it's for everyone. So all 17 county councilors seem to be on the same page in terms of protecting public safety in everybody's municipality. Who is it for me to say that LD wants a speed reduction, for me to say, no, I don't think you need it. They're obviously bringing this forward because there's a need for a speed reduction. So I must say, I have great respect for all the 17 members, that they respect everybody's request to increase public safety. Okay, so having said that, we have to come to some consensus, and I know you and I had a long conversation when we reduced the speed on, or put forward a request to reduce the speed on the boulevard, that every time you reduce that speed by 10 kilometers, it increased your lead time by 90 seconds, I think, over the 6 kilometer distance.
It was very minimal. It was about 9 seconds, I believe, was the, over that 6 kilometers or whatever the distance was. It was very negligible, so.
And I think this distance is a little shorter than 6 kilometers. So in terms of reducing your speed, I know a lot of people, oh, I'm never going to get to where I have to be if you reduce the speed. But in the end, this would probably be less than 90 seconds of commute time if you reduce the speed. And I know there was a lot of pushback early on when we reduced the speed on the boulevard, but now I'm finding a lot of positive feedback that my drive is more relaxing now. I'm not so worried about going fast. Why is that person going so slow in front of me? Some of the people I talked to say they put it on 75 cruise control. They just cruise along the boulevard to get to where they go. Anyway, so we have to get to a consensus here about what we're putting forward to the county for this. So what I'm hearing, right, I'll tell you what I would do, just to make things simple, is starting at Highway 17, start to 60, and then before you get to that Black Bay Road intersection, reduce it to 50, to reduce the severity of any accidents at that Black Bay intersection. And then from there, 50 all the way to Mercuryville, get it over with, be done with it. And then we're ready for all future development. And as we stated, we don't have, this is the last road left in the municipality that has residential development on it, and that's at 80 kilometers an hour. So that's my thought. Councilor Brennan.
Thank you, Mayor Service. I could be convinced to drop it to 60 at Airport Road, so 80 from the highway to airport, 60 from airport to whatever, where we had discussed the drop. Derek. So I could be convinced of that. But another thing, something to keep in mind when we're talking about speed reductions is that for the vast majority of people, those signs are a suggestion, right? What determines how people drive is how safe they feel. So the shape of the road, the condition of the road, how flat it is, how wide it is, how good the sight lines are. If people feel that they can drive a particular speed safely, they're quite often going to do that. And as I say, the signs don't always prevent them from doing that. As we see, like gathering Black Cat Day from all over the big channels, right? We all speed.
It's just our culture, unfortunately. Okay, so right now we have a 60 from the highway to before we get to Black Bay Road, not there, and turning it into 50. Councilor Carmody is 80 to airport, and then 60 through the Black Bay intersection.
Yes.
You want to go 60 through that intersection to there, and then turn it to 50?
Yeah, 3, 80, 60, 50.
Yeah, 60 through the intersection, then turn it to 50. Right around the deputy mayor's house. Deputy mayor's house.
Wow, I think I actually get there and indirect. Give me your answers also. No, I'm with the 80, 60, 50. I'm good with that as well.
Councilor Kuchar.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Just a point that I think in the future, yes, it might be time to retire to EV, but I think with the development we're seeing now in that area, to me, it doesn't pose the same safety risk as the other portions that we're talking about reducing. So the plan described by Councilor Carthy and Deputy Mayor was good as well. Thank you.
Councilor Griswold.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will support it from Airport Road to 60 at 50 Madera Drive at 80. The idea of not just changing it here tomorrow because that's the other municipalities doing doesn't really affect me. We're not other municipalities with Petawawa, if anything, we should lead the way and do things the way we want to do it, my personal opinion. And I genuinely think we're talking to a lot of different people who drive the full of our community.
I speak to those individuals. Any other comments? Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support what the other council members are saying, the 80, 60, 50.
Okay, sounds like we've come to a consensus. 80 from Highway 17 to Airport Road, 60 from there through the Blackman intersection to the first street with here. Yep. Okay, so our plan is to present this proposal to Renfrew County and have them, through their reporting, how they feel about this request. Maybe they'll do a traffic study. And then we'll, I thought we were hoping they would do it through regular.
No, we request.
Okay, so we'll request that as part of our, okay. Have you written something? Because it would take me a minute to do.
The council requests the county of Renfrew to lower the speed limit on Doran Road from 80 to 60 kilometers per hour at Airport. And reduce the speed limit at Derrick Drive from 250 kilometers per hour, sorry. And the council requests that a traffic study be conducted by the county of Renfrew on Doran Road from Highway 17 to Murphy and provide recommendations to the town of Petawawa for lowering the speed limit.
Okay, you're comfortable with that, any motion? Moved by Deputy Mayor Salmon, second by Councilor Donovan. You want me to read them? We're good? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. That was a good discussion.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, next up, we have PL-03-2026, zoning bylaw amendment application Z-194, part of lots 21 and 22, in section 7, 3283, Petawawa, Woodland. Melanie and Raj, your report.
So we're moving away from garbage and speeding and roads to buildings and development and chickens. So our first report, the zoning bylaw amendment application, we received an application for 3283 Boulevard, Petawawa Boulevard. This is a house on the corner of Fred and Petawawa Boulevard that was for sale last year. And then the owners approached the town and they would like to rezone the property to allow professional office. And you'll see in the report very specific for outpatient counseling services to offering mental health services, family support, and vocational return to work counseling. They're proposing to do this counseling in the existing dwelling with very few changes to the building itself. Putting a wall up in between the living room and the dining room, kind of walling off the recreation room, but leaving the kitchen and bathroom, everything else inside as is. The rezoning, as proposed, would not commit the footprint of the dwelling to be expanded, and it would also establish some site-specific parking provisions appropriate to the proposed use. So the property is about 0.3 of an acre. Like I say, it has road frontage on 3 sides, as you can see from the figures in the report. The current access is off of Fred Street. It's surrounded by the mixed uses along Petawawa Boulevard, the D&D lands to the north and east, and some vacant land in behind Fred Street. Looking at the provincial planning statement, there's a deeper analysis in the report, but basically section 2 of the planning statement talks about building homes as sustaining strong and complete and competitive communities. So it looks at things like not just providing housing, but providing some choice in employment areas and employment uses, servicing, making sure that, development is focused within the settlement areas on full services. And as we go through this, as we go through these policies in the report, you can see that the zoning amendment is consistent with that policy direction of the provincial planning statement. Looking at the official plan, this is the one property along Petawawa Boulevard that is designated residential, not commercial. And I suspect it's kind of the true nature of the lot, but it is an anomaly. The residential designation, although it's intended primarily for residential, it does allow some commercial uses, including medical uses. So, it's staff's opinion that an office for counseling service falls within medical use that's allowed in the residential area. The official plan also talks about commercial industrial uses and what we should be considering when we're looking at amendments to permit them, the compatibility with adjacent uses, any potential impacts from a commercial use and how to mitigate those, making sure they're serviced properly, safe access and parking. With the mixed use nature of this area, we feel using the existing dwelling for an office is compatible with the adjacent uses. Additional parking is being provided on the property, as you can see in the site plan that was attached to the report, to ensure that there's no street parking or cars parked along the road that would impact the neighbors. I mentioned it's on full services, which is the preferred form of servicing. Not expected to be any significant increase in water and sewage demand with flows. Like I say, the parking lot, additional parking areas provided in the, which is essentially the backyard of the dwelling, just to get those cars off the road and make sure that they're drained properly and dry well will be installed to collect any stormwater and runoff. The property is zoned residential 1, which doesn't permit an office use, so that is one of the zoning amendments. It will be very specific to only allow basically the uses that are being proposed. So it's not to allow any professional use, so that in the future, you wouldn't get other like doctors, dentists, that kind of thing in there. It's a very kind of tailored use to what's being proposed. And also it includes a requirement for 10 parking spaces instead of the 7 that the zoning bylaw would require. We had discussions with the proponents to say what number of parking spaces would be realistic, and that is the number we came up with. So in conclusion, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with the PBS that conforms to the official plan. It is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. We're not anticipating any adverse impacts. And there is a public meeting scheduled for February 9th. We wanted to have a chance to show this to council before the public meeting. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Melanie. I guess the one thing I would comment, I guess I'd like to make is setting aside that this is a pretty essential service that could be provided for the residents of Petawawa. The other thing to keep in mind, I guess, is we don't have a lot of vacant commercial space in the town, and there's not a lot of new commercial development under construction right now. So for a lot of these private business owners, there's not a lot of options, really. And I guess the question I have is, I'm looking at the schematic here for the parking lots. Is there any plan to get, once you park your car, it doesn't seem like there's a plan to get you from the parking lot to the business other than walking on the road. Is there a plan to have a sidewalk on the parking lot to the business? Or right now is the plan to go out and walk on the road and get to the business?
Currently, there's not a sidewalk along Front Street, but in talking to Chris, eventually Front Street might get an upgrade if our development happens. To, I guess it is development, so Eventually, Front Street will cross the county sidewalk, but today they're going to be parking on they're walking on.
Okay, thanks. Questions from members of council? Everybody good? Okay, so we'll receive that report as information. Thanks, Tony. Next, we have PL-04-2026, the long-awaited backyard chicken bylaw final draft, we hope. Raj, you must dream about this thing.
All right, for my chicken report, I'll start with some background information. So staff presented the first draft of standalone backyard chicken bylaw to council on June 16, 2025. And then the revised draft was presented on September 2022, 2025, along the direction of the zoning bylaw amendment. Then a public meeting was held for the zoning bylaw amendment on October 27, 2025. 3 members of public spoke and 5 written submissions were received. To address all those issues and concerns raised, an ad hoc committee was established consisting of town staff, 3 members of council and members of the public. So the ad hoc committee met on November 24 and December 5, 2025. Now I'll go through all the key changes that had been made in our backyard chicken bylaw based on the feedback received through the public meeting process and ad hoc committee. So the first change, which is related to the eligible properties. So the bylaw applies only to residential zone properties and does not apply to rural zone land. A maximum of 6 chickens is permitted on residential lots smaller than 1 acre. A maximum of 12 chickens is permitted on residential lots of 1 acre or larger. The number of chickens on rural zone properties remain regulated under the animal control bylaw. The second change, the minimum age requirement of 4 months has been removed from the backyard bylaw. And the roosters remain prohibited, there is no changes with roosters. And the next third change, the coop requirement has been simplified to state that coops, shelter and runs must comply with the access structure provisions of the town of Petawawa zoning bylaw and the Ontario building code. The next change, the sale of eggs, manure and meat remains prohibited. The sale of live backyard hens is permitted, however, only for flock management purpose. The fifth change, the revised bylaw established only one-time license fee of $50. Annual renewal and inspection have been removed. Inspection will occur only where a building permit is required under the Ontario building code. The next change, to address continuous offences, non-compliance issues, the draft bylaw now includes a provision stating that repeat offenders may be subject to enforcement under Part 3 of the Provincial Offences Act. For the set fines schedule, based on the feedback received from council, several adjustments have also been made to the set fines amounts. You can see the attachment 4, which is attached to the bylaw. With regards to zoning bylaw amendment, additional changes were made to the wording of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, which is attached as attachment 7. The initial draft of the zoning bylaw amendment indicated that MDS may apply to the keeping of the backyard chicken. However, the current backyard chicken zoning provisions include provisions that MDS does not apply, as the revised standalone backyard chicken bylaw limit the keeping of backyard chickens to residential properties only. So the recommendation is to keep the current provision, and therefore the wording of the zoning bylaw amendment has to be updated accordingly. As per the section 3417 of the Planning Act states that if changes are made to proposed bylaw after the public meeting has been held, council is required to determine whether further public meeting is necessary. It is the opinion of the staff that the intent of the zoning bylaw amendment has not changed. The revisions of the bylaw are minor and further notice is not required. For financial implications, to reduce financial and administrative burden, the ad hoc committee recommended revisions to the proposed registration and license fee structure. Under the initial proposal, license holders were required to pay a fee at the time of issuance and renew the license annually, which would have required additional staff time for administration and inspection. Under the revised bylaw, license holders will pay a one-time fee only, with no annual renewal or mandatory inspection unless a building permit is required. This approach is expected to reduce staff workload. While the nominal fee will generate some revenue, it is not expected to fully offset staff time. So our recommendations to the council that council provide comment on revised backyard chicken bylaw, and that council provide comments on the revised draft zoning bylaw amendment in attachment 7 or direct staff to progress its next step in the planning act process. And that pertains to the section 3417 of the planning act, council deems that no further public meeting is required with respect to proposed modification to the draft zoning bylaw amendment. Thank you.
I just wanted to add one thing, that in our package, attachment 6 is an application package. So an application form, what a license would look like, and an information sheet that, a draft was brought forward by one of our members of the public, and we kind of refined it a little bit, added some updates, but we wanted to also to see what would it look like from somebody wanting chickens, what would the formally have to fill out, what information would it give them, what would a permit look like, so just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, thank you for including that. That was very helpful, appreciate it. Okay, questions from the members of council, or comments? Deputy Mayor Zimmer.
Thank you for comment. I appreciate the thoughtful review, and I'd like to thank Councilors Kitsu, Donovan, and Driscoll. I'm happy if you're happy, because I know we thought that would be this. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Councilor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say thank you to staff. I know it's been a long process, and thanks to our members of the public that joined this ad hoc committee and Councilors Kitsu and Donovan. It's taken a while, but at least, we're here, I think. This is a good way of looking at bylaws going forward when they are creating new bylaw, when there is lots of input. This ad hoc committee worked very well with a combination of councilors and members of the public. We were able to hammer out a lot of issues, and everyone was satisfied when they left. So looking forward to having this done. Thanks.
Councilor Kernan.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Yes, thank you to the councilors and staff and the public who participated in this process. I'm happy with what I see here, in particular the one-time fee for the licensing. That's something I was hoping to see. And yeah, I'm happy to move forward with this. It'll be interesting a year or two from now to see what kind of workload this chicken bylaw actually generates.
Hopefully it doesn't generate anything. Councilor Kitsu.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Thank you very much to the planning department. I think those ad hoc meetings were just a really great example of what Councilor Driscoll was saying, having the public there, getting the robust questions answered. And because we had that process, I'm comfortable moving ahead without a second public meeting. I think that the loudest voices were heard, and those with the most experience to offer helped create a really robust bylaw. And I agree with the planning department that really the intent hasn't changed. If anything, we've made it more accessible to people. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Okay, thanks again to the three members of council that were on the committee, planning department for all your work, and of course the members of the public who contributed. I don't know if this is groundbreaking, but I can't remember a time when we did something like this, and maybe other municipalities do. But I think it was awesome to see all those three groups of people come together to create a bylaw in the town of Petawawa that hopefully works for everybody. Those who want chickens, those who live near people who have chickens, and everybody else in the community as well. So I think this is great. So we need to decide a couple of things here. It's sounding like we're going to approve the bylaw as presented, so that's the first motion. There's an additional motion required, and that is whether or not we want to see another public meeting based on the changes that were made, or should we have another public meeting? So the first motion is that council approves the draft backyard chicken bylaw as presented, and that the bylaw be brought forward at the next meeting of council for adoption. If you're comfortable with that, I need a motion. Moved by Councillor Driscoll, seconded by Councillor Coutu. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's unanimous. The second motion is whether or not you would like to see a second public meeting or have no public meeting. So I'll read the first one. It's that pursuant to section 34, paragraph 17 of the Planning Act, council deems that no further public meeting is required with respect to the proposed modifications to the draft zoning bylaw amendment, and that the bylaw be brought forward at the next meeting of council for adoption. If you're comfortable with that, I need a motion. Moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Driscoll. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Unanimous. God will sleep well tonight. Thank you very much, Melanie and Rowley. Okay, next up we have Finance Report, FIN-01-2026, the 2026 water and sewer rates. First, I'd like to welcome Megan O'Quinn, our new Director of Finance. This is Megan's maiden voyage at the council.
We'll ease into it, I hope.
We're glad to have you here and looking forward to your first report.
Okay, thank you for your service and council. So we have before you today a pretty straightforward report that is just in your pre-approval basically for the draft bylaw to set the 2026 water and sewer rates so that we can proceed with budgeting appropriately. As you can see in the discussion points, the rates that are provided are part of the report that Watson presented and council approved in 2020. There's no change to what we're proposing to bring forward in 2026. Staff is working with Watson currently to prepare a new rate study for the water and wastewater that may come out later in 2026, but we could presumably have the rates for 2027 and onwards, so would be updated. At this time, we're just going to stick with the 2020 report that Watson has prepared.
Questions on the report? Anybody good? Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just under the water rates, there's the three rates are annual increase. Is there a reason one of them is less than the other two?
Which one's less?
Sorry, the water rates right at the beginning of the report, half on the bottom of the first page.
Oh, the rates for flat rate and garrison.
Yes, yeah.
So that was the numbers are coming straight out of the report for Watson. My understanding is that there's an agreement with Garrison, and that hasn't changed since 2020. So perhaps as part of the revised rate study that we're entering into now, that would change. But based on whatever information was provided back there.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Okay, so I need a motion then if you're comfortable. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sadler, seconded by Councillor Kirby, that council approves the draft bylaw setting the 2026 water and sewer rates as presented, and that a bylaw be brought forward at the next meeting of council for adoption. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you, Megan. You did great.
All of them will be that.
No more rookie jitters. Next, we'll go to the legislative services report for the month of December. And Don and Colin are converging.
Thank you. I'd like to be able to see you. Hard to see everyone from up there. So for our December monthly report, I'm happy to report that our contract with municipal law enforcement services began December 1st. So they're a month and a half into their contract. In December, we MLES, that's our short form for them, so I don't have to keep saying it out. They received 23 calls for service for animal control for just December. As council's aware, as of January 1st, council's now providing lost pet service on the garrison, as well as pet registration for dog and cats on the garrison. So the garrison is in in communication with our residents on this at this point. In December, they received 12 calls regarding clean yards, so 12 calls for service regarding that. 4 calls for service in December regarding noise. And we did experience 15 false alarms. And I just wanted to note that that does include November and December calls for the fire department. It's not all just December, which was kind of in total for those 2 months together. We have started our public transportation feasibility study with Dillon Consulting. We do have a public information center scheduled for February 4th from 4 to 7 p.m. And that will be held at the public library in the Rotary Room. So it is posted now on our social media and on our website. We did have our kickoff meeting was in December, but this is coming up rather quickly, so I just wanted to get that out there to open house forum, drop in residents, council, anyone is invited to attend.
All right, thank you, Don. Moving ahead to some of our items under human resources. For recruitment, proud to report that we've concluded our interview process for the building inspector. We had 6 interviews conducted in December the 11th, and then we had 3 candidates follow up with the second interview. And an offer component has been offered, and I believe we're looking at a mid-February start date for the individual. So we finally filled that role. So kudos to Melanie and Jody for assisting with that process. Moving along to Commissioner votes, we had 33 requests for the month of December. And the marriage licenses, we had nobody wanted to get married in December, so we didn't have any. Our community flag requests for the month of December, from the 1st to the 15th, were International Day of Persons with Disabilities. Under council requests, we did receive 5 requests for certificates of recognition from the Office of the Mayor, and they were received and completed in the month. So kudos to Natasha for her assistance with that. Under meetings and other activities for the month, December the 1st, as Don mentioned, happy to report that MLES started for animal control and bylaw and park enforcement, and I couldn't be happier. So far, it's been going very well. On December the 1st as well, Don participated in an EMCTO webinar with regarding strong air powers, and as council knows, we've done a good job with getting that set up at the end of the year. On December the 8th, Don, myself, and Kate, our state services coordinator, participated in an emergency preparedness exercise along with the mayor and deputy mayor. On December the 8th, Don, myself, and Natasha participated in elections training, which we are getting into high gear for 2026. As council is aware, we are going to be, as every month goes by, getting more involved with the elections. So looking forward to that. I'm happy to have Don back to assist because it's a big job. On December the 12th, we attended the kickoff meeting for votes in regards to the election. Again, they are our provider for this next election, and looking forward to working with them for the second time in the last 4 years. And there's a list of other meetings there, unless Tom wanted to comment on the other ones. We'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions on that? I just have one question about the MLES and how it's been going so far in the first month and a half. And will we get each month statistics that show how many times they went onto the garrison property, as opposed to just one big statistic that shows us and the
I could say yes, we can break it out and maybe provide addresses within the monthly report.
Yeah, thanks. It'd just be interesting to know how much of the service that garrison is using. Sure. Any other questions? Okay, and then need a motion to accept the report. Moved by Deputy Mayor Simon, seconded by Councilor Driscoll, that the Legislative Services Monthly Activity Report be accepted and information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Next, we have LEG-03-2026, proposed council meeting schedule. John, you're up. I know a lot of work went into this, so thanks.
Thank you. I wanted to bring this forward. I wasn't sure if council had an appetite or interest in looking at this prior to getting into the election. Currently, council does meet 4 times per month. I did look at other, like all of the lower tier in the city of Pembroke, within the county. We're the only municipality that does meet the 4 times per month. We're finding, again, myself, and previously in my role as deputy clerk, that we're constantly in agenda minute mode. You're constantly reviewing, like everybody else's reports, before you can get to your own. I was able to do this report because we didn't have a meeting between December 15th and January 12th. So that's why there's a lot of extra effort I was able to go into this report. I wanted to gauge if council were meeting not enough, or too often. I looked at 9 other Ontario municipalities that are comparable population to Petawawa. And out of those, 5 municipalities meet twice per month, and only 1 other municipality did meet the 4 times. I also wanted to look at meeting start times, looking at the opportunity for us to reduce any overtime costs that we do experience for senior staff for attending evening meetings. The earliest start time within the county is at 9:30, and that's in Brayside. And the latest, I believe, was 7:30 in Evanston Brome, 7:30 p.m. There are 3 municipalities that do meet at 5:30, and there are a few that meet, say, at 10 a.m., 1 p.m., 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, spreading it out during the day. Of the other 9 municipalities in Ontario, 9 a.m. was the earliest start time, and that's in Bracebridge, which we are also using as a comparator through our public transportation feasibility study, as they're very similar population base as us. 6:30 p.m. is the late start time for of those municipalities that were surveyed. I did look at summer schedules. There are 13 municipalities in Metro County that do have a reduced schedule in the summer. Currently, we reduce our meetings to 3 per July and August, even though we could reduce it, I think it's to 1, but 1 per month. That's within our procedural bylaw, but we've never activated that. We've never realized that. So there are 4 municipalities that have only 1 meeting in July and 5 that only have 1 meeting in August. Again, I wouldn't like for us to go that low. 2 meetings for July and August seems reasonable with all the growth that we do have within our municipality. I did also look at other advisory boards and committees that council sits on. There are several. The majority of them do meet during the regular workday. The committee of adjustment and property standards would be ones that would meet prior to council meeting, and they are just members of council who sit on those committees. The public library board meets at 4 p.m. on the 4th Monday of each month. So that is a date that council would need to consider should you wish to alter your meeting schedule. Is that meeting date that could interfere with a decision, as the majority of the other meetings are not on Mondays. Also during the week. In 2025, we held a total of 43 meetings, and that equated to 70 hours and 30 minutes of meetings. Out of those meetings, the longest meeting we had was 3.5 hours, and the shortest was 15 minutes. So again, these meetings could be accommodated if council would like to consider holding afternoon meetings, and no overtime would be accumulated by staff. There's options to have a council and committee meeting followed by council, again, reducing the amount of overtime for that time period. I did look at trying to do a cost as to what we have experienced just for 2025. Approximately $47,000 for overtime cost was experienced for staff. This is on the high side, as you can see throughout our meeting. Not all staff stay for the whole meeting, but it's not charted as to when they actually left the meeting. So I tried my best. I did use just step 3 of our salary grid for all positions, and that amount does not include any cost for benefits or pension. Fire chief and deputy fire chief are paid separately. They're based on an hourly allotment for those positions, so that would just be included in their hourly monthly amount. While we do meet in the evenings, we do have some staff that will stay between 4:30 and 6:30 to get extra work done because it's too far for them to drive home and come back. This time it can be flexed at straight time. We don't allow it to be included as overtime at time and a half. The roles and the estimated hours for 7 roles I looked at would have been approximately 264 hours and 30 minutes that staff could take off at flex time or at straight time during the workday. The roles of our CEO and clerk do attend most meetings. We often have difficulty scheduling vacation times between us so that we're both not out of the office at the same time. We have found a lot of overtime hours rather than being taken off, which was the intent. We would like staff to be taking it off. Most are getting paid out as opposed to taking the time off in lieu, especially for myself and Colin. Following meetings, we have correspondence and other communications that have to be done in a timely manner. And again, it doesn't accommodate us to take that, say, 4 hours off the next day when you have people call and saying, what did council decide? What am I doing? What was their decision? We do have corporate guest attendance. In 2025, we had 14 separate corporate guests. And again, some of these groups, again, may accumulate overtime costs for their own staff as well, because they're attending outside of their work hours. I also looked at public engagement. Anytime you're looking at changing meetings, we have to determine how it's going to affect our public. In 2025, of the 43 meetings that we did hold, there were 9 meetings where we had no public attendance at all in person. So 21% of our meetings had no public attendance. We do have 3 members of the public who have shown interest, who have shown interest in our meetings, and they do attend in person on occasion. Of those 3, there were meeting overlaps, so there were about 16 meetings where they had an attendance, so 37% of our meetings had a regular attendance. During the live stream, how many did that one? Are you able to see that? Just curious.
Yeah.
Usually have upwards of
3 watching right now.
And you're one?
I'd be 1.
And Brad's one. So right now, we have 2 people from the public watching, which could be 2 of our municipal staff who are very keen on municipal government. Okay, they're very keen, they're learning. So again, so 2 to 3 members of the public are viewing the meeting on the live stream. People seem to be more interested afterwards. We get a lot of hits on our videos after. Last year, the media only attended 2 meetings in person. I see articles that I'm like, wow, okay, they recorded on our recorded meeting, which is nice to see. It's like our information is getting out there, even though it's a little bit dated. The media is still communicating that. Our meetings that had our highest views were our meetings involving glyphosate as well as the backyard chickens. It's very highly viewed. Our largest public attendance is when we have special presentations. So our youth awards, I think we had 40 plus people. We had 26 people attend the first Backyard Chickens bylaw presentation. We had 21 people attend when we presented a 50-year volunteer award. And other meetings of note were the off-road vehicles, again, glyphosate and Backyard Chickens. And the meeting where we had a presentation to the child who called 911. Majority of people who are attending for these presentations, again, tend to leave after that presentation is completed. So from the analysis I made above, it appears that in-person public engagement is limited, whereas the recorded versions of our meetings receive more interest. So I have provided several options for council's consideration for, again, an effort to reduce the number of overtime hours and accumulated time paid out, accommodate vacations, provide more time to turn around minutes and reports. We're proposing that council consider reducing its meeting schedule. This conversation is timely not only for staff, but for candidates as well, as we are entering a municipal election year. You notice in my report, I put that if council does choose to make a change, that if we do make a decision by May 1st, which is nomination day, so that if anyone is filing, they're aware of what would be expected of them for the next term of council as well. Council does not have to make a decision this evening. We could implement a pilot project, or council may choose, I know, we're good, bring the same status quo. So again, so the options that I had suggested were, again, status quo, we stay at our 4 meetings. We could reduce our meeting schedule from 4 meetings to 2 meetings per month. Meeting at the same time, I got 6:30. So overtime hours would still be accumulated, but hopefully would be a reduction in that time. Option 3, we could reduce our meeting schedule from 4 meetings per month to 2 and change the meeting time. Have an afternoon meeting or at a time preferred by council. So based on the length of meetings in 2025, meetings typically did not last longer than, or wouldn't last longer than 4 or 5 hours if a committee meeting was combined with council. Some meetings may only be 1 or 2 hours long with no overtime hours accumulated. I have already spoken regarding the library board meeting, so if you were to choose a daytime meeting, the 4th Monday would not be a suggestion. Option 4 was we could reduce 4 meetings per month to 3 meetings per month, again 6:30 time. Option 5, reduce 4 meetings to 3 meetings per month and hold during the afternoon. Options 1, 4, and 5 don't address the concern of staff being, as I call our constant agenda minutes mode. There are a lot of bylaws that do need to be updated, like what we did with the chicken bylaw. I want to do with our animal control bylaw, our parking bylaw. They're outdated. They need to be updated, but we need to have the opportunity to focus our time in that area. It's anticipated that there would be a cost savings to the municipality if the meeting schedule was reduced and meetings held during the workday. And the current cost to the municipality based on our current schedule is estimated at $47,000 annually in overtime hours. And this can be experienced directly in cash where we're paying out hours, or a reduced level of service to the public by having employees absent during the workday when taking time off anyway. And I would like to open it up for council's discussion to see if this is something that you would like to entertain.
Okay, there's a lot going on there.
And there's options within the options.
I'm glad you mentioned the flex time piece there. So take, for example, tonight, somebody could have, if they knew they were going to stay from 4:30 to 6:30, they could have come in 2 hours later to work this morning and just worked from then until 6:30. Is that the type of flex time option? Yeah. Okay. Because we do have some employees who live a little farther away and it just doesn't make sense. They go home and back to the. Okay, I'll open it up for questions from, who wants to go first on this one? Councilor Kerr.
Thank you, Mayor Service. This is a very interesting topic. You got a little split up into pre-internet and post-internet stuff. Because the first thing that I thought was, well, we govern ourselves. We can't have daytime meetings because then that eliminates people who have full-time jobs. They're gonna have to take time off work to go to a council meeting. That's not the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be able to participate in local government, even if you have a full-time job. So I think that still holds pre-internet or not. I could see possibly backing up meeting times to an earlier time, 5 o'clock maybe, or that might not be where, that might not work very well for people either. The public has the right to attend meetings, whether or not they do is irrelevant in my mind. It's the fact that they can, should they choose to do so. And we often see it where there's some issue of great importance to people and they flood the chambers. We have meetings through the day that may not be possible for most people to attend. However, we've got the internet now, so if people with a casual interest in what's going on at meetings want to watch, they can always watch the internet, and it's for the several who do watch after the fact. Not necessarily the live stream, but the recordings. So, and I can fully appreciate the being in minute mode all the time, and agendas, and constantly just cycling from one meeting to the next, and never having a chance to catch your breath and do some work. Work other than agendas and minutes. So I fully appreciate that fact, and I see sometimes we have pretty light agendas, which could be wrapped up into others, and then there's the possibility of council followed immediately by, or committee followed immediately with the council. There's a lot of options, and it's also thinking that it is an election year, so possibly not the very best time to be considering this. And on the other hand, you get a new council in here, you could have 60 people. And what kind of position are they going to need to comment on this? Not very good. So it's complicated out there. So what does everybody else say?
Well, thanks for taking the bold first step. Deputy Mayor Sutton.
I'll take the bold second step. Thank you, Don. A lot of review and a lot of options and a lot of information contained in here. I guess for me, both Councilor Don and I have attended Council for Democracy Forum, how you get more people wanting to come to join council, so you have more diversity at your council tables, but you more truly represent your table. We also need to think about our youth, who I certainly hope that we encourage our youth populations to start thinking about public service in this way. For me, it's we currently have a council, not all who's retired, so those are considerations for those folks that work. What does that look like for their work? I appreciate that she took into context the library board, being new to the library board, that's been a set schedule, and I know that many people plan around their set schedules, so I appreciate that context. It's also important for our work-life balance for our staff team. I believe that when you hear it, you get time and a half, whereas certainly if you were having a meeting during your workday, it was your prior to workday. So there's an efficiency of time, I guess, in that kind of approach as well. For me, it's always about the work that gets done in the time that's allotted and what our expectations are around that. So I think that's also a consideration. If we've got folks taking flex, expected and hope to take flex time, which is sounds to me like it's not really occurring because it's just not possible for the work to be done. but let's say that was in fact happening, then a 3-hour meeting would be 4.5 hours out of the office that week. So again, those are some considerations as well. So those are the things that I look at. Certainly a number of years ago, this is the older council, we did, we had 2 meetings per month for 1 year and one for 1 summer. And that seemed to work out quite well because there are a lot of these people do deserve appropriate holiday times. And I certainly think that that could be achievable. I don't know what that necessarily, or how that necessarily plays out with others, but I think having one meeting for council, 1 meeting for council committee in July and in August is definitely doable. The mayor always has the privilege, as is in our bylaws, of calling a meeting as required for those kinds of things that come up. So I don't think that diminishes that opportunity at all. Again, as you pointed out, we have had times where we've rolled a big council and committee meeting together and whatnot. All that we do is give a week break. However, that is certainly something to consider. So those are my initial thoughts, and I'm looking forward to hearing from any members of council. Thank you.
Further questions from Councilor Desmond?
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you for making support. Honestly, for me, it's tough because yes, I still work, but I also work shift work. So daytime meetings would probably be better for me with kids, which is the opposite of most people who work shift work, or not shift work. The one concern I have with it is, even if we move to like 3 meetings a month, you're still doing 3 agendas, plus you're losing an afternoon of time that is normally spent in your normal work. So it's just how we make that time up. But I can understand how it would be hard for members of the public, everybody else other than staff, unfortunately. So I'm kind of flexible on this. I would try a pilot project earlier, but I can 100% see why the rest of the council doesn't see the need fit, that I'm fine to stick with that.
Further questions? Councilor Kutsu?
Thank you, Mayor Service. Thank you very much, John. You really painted a picture. I know a lot of what staff put into these meetings, and I'm very grateful for all of the effort and energy that goes into it. To kind of build on the comments already made, I was trying to piece a way around this where everyone could be satisfied, and it didn't seem like we could. I thought maybe this is just one of those special circumstances where that 47,000 in overtime is part of the cost of doing business in a way, because if you put it in the afternoon, staff would still be unavailable for the jobs, maybe that would push tasks and overtime. So it's just sort of the circle. And when I zoom in on my own situation, I could not do an afternoon meeting if it wouldn't work for my profession. And then I think about all the other people out there for whom that would be a barrier potentially to running for council. If you were a professional or a business owner or you had other interests, because this isn't a full-time job. So for people who are retired, who have other going concerns, it would be maybe a barrier. I didn't see barriers in our democracy. So there's a ton of empathy and appreciation for the difficulties that staff experience. So looking at that, I would be happy to consider rolling back meeting times, making it maybe 6 p.m., having 3 meetings a month, then you have that 1 week for free. So there's no agenda meeting. Maybe that's a very valuable week for staff to get other things done, but unfortunately, I don't think I could support afternoon meetings. Thank you.
Councilor Dunn?
Thank you, Mayor Service. Yeah, certainly from a personal point of view, I do prefer the evenings. Meetings, I think, is a better option for members of the public. A large component of our population works 07:30 till 1600, so they would be available in the evening. I would be willing to try 2 meetings a month, whether it's one council and committee and one council as a trial for a few months, which would reduce the amount of work required for the agenda and minutes. Because the last 3 years, I've been like, wow, there's a lot of work goes into this document together. So I do appreciate how much time is required for that. So that's an option that I would, be willing to look at, or whatever else anybody feels might come. 6 o'clock wouldn't be bad. 6:30 for 3 years. I kind of like continuity. So, I can live with discomfort of looking it up a little bit in time. If that helps with the rest of it.
Councilor,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Definitely, I would support a reduced schedule in the summer, and again, with the option, that the mayor has that option to call it if there's a need to, if a circumstance arises. In regards to times and dates, I think maybe everything just stay the same until the new council is elected, and you never know, you might have 6 elected retired officials who can make those decisions then. I think our proven success in this town is based on communication. This weekly meeting, even if it's a short meeting, a brief meeting, I'm okay with starting at 6 o'clock. But dealing with the functions of this growing community, I don't want to hear what goes on or about the meeting schedules in other municipalities. That means something to me. I worry about the town of Petawawa and dealing with our business, and communicating and making the best decisions and processes and policies for our town and residents. Not all our residents can attend meetings during the day. I hear that all the time. We still have 3 to 4 council members in this council that still work, and I'm one of them. I'm a strong believer too that not all staff members need to attend all meetings. If there's an important decision, yes, they need to be here. But if it's a common report, and that's just the way things are. Sometimes there's less of importance in a meeting schedule. I'm good with getting the meetings, the agenda comes out Thursdays. I take the time, I read everything. If I have a problem, I can go through the mayor or right to the CAO and get that question answered to the staff and get my answer back. No problem there whatsoever. So if it's a weaker meeting topic that does not need that member there, I'm good with that. I also have, I think because that's the way I work with my staff, if I need my staff there that meeting, they could start on a flexible schedule. They could start at 12 o'clock and they can schedule from 12 to 7:30. That's to meet that demand if they're required. There's no overtime. It's as simple as that. There's no overtime issue. You will start later that day, and to accommodate the needs of the community and the taxpayer, the people you're working for. Those are my comments. Thank you.
any further comments or questions? Okay, just building off of what everybody has said, I agree with the healthy democracy part. I think it's important that we allow, especially the public, to participate, and especially somebody who wants to run for public office. I agree that we don't want to shut anybody out based on their work schedule. I know some other municipalities do have daytime meetings, but how many people in those municipalities just decided not to run because I can't go in the daytime? We don't know. So I think it's great that we have the evening meetings. It's open to all, open to anybody who wants to run, open to anybody who wants to attend. And I think that's good for the town of Petawawa. You get maximum participation, even if it's somebody watching online. In terms of the timings of the day, so as I said, I'm not a big fan of the afternoon meetings, but I wouldn't mind moving it up till 6 o'clock as a trial, just to see. That leaves everybody enough time to get home from work, have a little snack, and get themselves dressed and get out to the meeting. Sometimes 6:30 meetings last till 9:30. If we started at 6, we'd be out of here a little bit early. And I think that's good too, especially for the elderly folks like me. You gotta get home and get to bed. So I would like be in favor of a trial between now and the end, that we start the meetings at 6 o'clock. We saw just recently, this past December, based on the holiday schedule and the way the December schedule rolled out, we had 2 meetings for the month of December. So did we have 3? We have 3. 3. So I would be in favor of the July and August, just having 2 meetings. It is the summertime and people take holidays then. So I know that we have 3 traditionally, so it'd be nice to have 1 super committee and council committee to deal with any business that came up at the committee meeting, and then do the same for August. There's something else we could try this year. So as I said earlier, we had 3 meetings in December. So the other trial I would like to see is have us try 3 meetings each month. And I know we discussed earlier about having each of those 3 meetings have 2 committees. So let's say fire and recreation would come and have a committee meeting and then have a council meeting. And then the second meeting, you have 2 more committees come, committee meeting, council meeting. And then the third meeting, you have the other 3 committees and then a council meeting. I know you expressed a concern that whatever was brought up during that committee would have to be decided, but could it not be deferred to the next council meeting?
If you were going to combine the meetings into 1 council meeting, then it wouldn't work. But if you were going to actually have 2 separate meetings, where you bring a committee report in that meeting, take a 5-minute break. Yeah. That's 6 agendas, really.
Yeah.
So that does make it tougher, but again, it's an option, but there's options within the options, as Don mentioned earlier, that's why we want to have a full discussion, or maybe there's nothing we do in the state status quo, but.
So to avoid the 6 agendas, we would just do what we do and had been doing in the summertime, have a council meeting, a super committee, and then another council meeting, and have 3 meetings a month, which would give them, all staff, I guess, a couple of weeks off between meetings, as opposed to 1 every week. Okay, so just to wrap that up, I'm in favor of trying the 6 o'clock time period, going to 2 meetings in the summertime, and trialing the 3 meetings each month. Council, super committee, council. And I think the point was raised about the incoming council for the end of 2026 and for the next 4 years after that. It's important to decide this before May, when people are putting in their nomination form, so that they're aware of what they're running for. And once that new council is in place, if they're not in favor of all the changes that have taken place, they can come together and alter the schedule based on those 6, 7 members that are sitting around the table. That's my proposal. Deputy Mayor Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just listening to you, just tweaked me that many times, I guess 3 times a year, we have to pick Monday. I would like to suggest that if it's at all possible to consider when we have the 3 meetings, that it not be, the meeting not be right before the 5th Monday, because then there would be actually 2 weeks off. So anyways, you see you on. I'm kind of, well, no, I'm just making that as an observation. I know in March, we have 5 Mondays. If it's possible for you to look at the 24th, not having, and then that just gives you as a staff team a bit more time between. That's all I'm thinking. I'm thinking only of you as a staff team.
But there wouldn't be consecutive 3, first, second, and third week.
Correct.
I got you.
Thank you.
Councillor Carnegie, do you have something?
Just a word about the summer meetings. You were proposing 2 of both,
Yeah.
July and August,
Instead of our regular
committee council.
Yeah.
Okay, which does make sense because our summer agendas are kind of like
Any other questions or comments? So would you like us, oh, go ahead, Steve.
Can I just clarify that, so your suggestion of 3 meetings would be council the first Monday of the month, what I would call super committee the second Monday of the month, and the third Monday of the month would be council again, if you go with your proposal. At 6 o'clock,
At
6 o'clock. I just wanted to make sure about that.
How does that work?
Well, any feedback from Don or Colin? Do you have any feedback on any of the proposals?
One last Jeff Shepherd. We did, again, that we're still doing 3 agendas. Another option, I think I may have had it in there, maybe not, would be if we met, like, the first Monday would be a council meeting, third Monday, all committees. If that's an option, and again, starting at 6. Again, giving that week in between to get caught up rather than going to them and just,
And then be able to call council, a special council meeting if something were present that couldn't wait a week. You could do that too.
So maybe dropping from 4 meetings a month to 2. Yeah, so we'd be doing the summer schedule all year long. Well, based on the operation of the town of Petawawa, we feel that we can get all the business done that we need to do 2 meetings a month.
Through you, Chair, there probably going to be longer meetings, but I do think we can get it done. We're doing it on the long months right now. When I think about it, like December, we did reduce this year. So, and there are meetings where we're here for less than an hour, a lot of times. And it's 4 times a month. So it would be something that I think would be worth the try. I wouldn't say go green light, go right away. I'd say trial it and see if it works, and then we can fall back to our standard 4 meetings a month with the new board council, or 3, whatever we decide. We can try it at least between now until, I guess,
March and April.
March and April, and have to know by May, so it'd be worth the trial to see.
I guess the one concern I have about going to 2 meetings a month, and I just noticed this, I guess, in the last 3 years, we've had a lot of special presentations and a lot of public presentations coming in. We had the OPP report, we had the Beaver Hospital report, we have upcoming a Centennial Health Center report, we have the Garrison Commander here, we have our youth awards, we have the mayor from the Netherlands, we have another mayor from the Netherlands coming in May. So if we go down to 2 meetings, we're only going to have a limited number of time we can bring all these external bodies. So I'm just wondering, it almost seems like we'd be holding a special meeting each month just to accommodate a lot of the presentations. It's just something I was thinking. Councilor,
Ms. Mayor, I guess maybe look at a bit of a compromise. I know we'd like to go down to the 2, and keeping in mind the deputy mayor's comment with regards to the 5th Monday. Could we not do 1st and 5th as council meetings, 4th? 1st and 4th as council, and 2nd as super committee. That gives us super committee 1 week off into council.
oh, but that's only for the months that have 5 months down.
No, set those standards. So we know the 1st Monday's council, 2nd Monday is super committee, 4th Monday is council. 11. That's it.
Councilor Kennedy,
Thank you for your service. I couldn't see dropping from 4 to 2. It would be too much of a shift, like far too much of a shift right away. And it would promote a disconnect between council and staff. There's not enough communication. It would all transfer to electronic instead of just for. So my concerns would go over to.
and just a question about the library. I mean, we could suggest to the library that they choose it. Like we get our 3 meetings lined up. If we go with a suggestion like Councilor Donovan, where it's 1, 2, and 4. You're up 50 years.
I was just going to say, I prefer 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. That becomes consistent. I want to protect the library for PM meeting. We need 2 hours make it any less than that, this allows us the opportunity to do our business, and that's why we do work, Mr. Mayor. For no other reason, I appreciated your thoughts, but we need our time, thank you so much.
But that works if we go the first 3 Mondays for council, committee, council, and then the 4th Monday is the library. We would have no conflict. And
Stay all night.
CAO,
I just wanted to say too, with going council, committee, council, and then you'll be back to another council meeting, that does give the opportunity for departments like Melanie and Chris's who have a lot of hot topic issues that sometimes can't wait to that super committee, that they would be allowed to bring that staff report at the other council meeting to conduct business. So it does still fit in that time frame, as you kind of mentioned, with the amount of work that we do have. And I do agree with you on the comment about the number of people that have come forward this year for the attending their meetings. It would be a challenge to put them on 2 meetings. I think we could do it on a trial basis, but if council wishes to go to 3 and not to do 2, I'm fine with that.
I'm just thinking that if we have 2 meetings and they last 3, 4, 5 hours, and then you tack on a half-hour presentation at the meeting, it would be a long meeting. But by the time you're done, you would not be too interested in what's going on. But I like the comment about our staff departments, that, you know, if there was something pressing, they could bring it forward at a council meeting. Okay, so I guess what I'm hearing is we're willing to trial a 6 p.m. start. And before I wrap this up, when would your start as yours?
Our meeting schedule for February is already set because we do have presentations on, I think, 2 meetings so far. So it would be for the month of March and April, where the second council meeting of April, we would need to make a final decision. If you wanted to change it before the nomination day or wait for the next one.
Okay. So we're going to trial a 6 p.m. start time. Go the first 3 Mondays of the month, council, committee, council. July and August, we go to 2 meetings, super committee, council. And I guess the other question is, would we like to get this done before the May 1st nomination period? And I think that's important to do for anybody that's out there considering to put their name in to run for council in May. They should know what they're getting. Is there anything in this?
The only option that I would suggest that if you're going to implement it before May 1st, that it would have to be a unanimous decision at council to do so, because you campaigned on knowing that you were going to be here for May days a month. More so had to do if you were changing to daytime, but again, I think it should be a unanimous decision of council to change the meeting schedule prior to May 1st.
Okay, so let me just say the recommendation. So the recommendation is that we, on a trial basis, change the current meeting schedule to 3 meetings a month, the first 3 Mondays of the month, which will be a council meeting, a council committee meeting, and a council meeting. And we would, on a trial basis, have a start time of 6 p.m. For the months of July and August, we would have 2 meetings, council and committee super meeting, and then a council meeting. I guess we would want the first, we didn't talk about that, but that'd be the first 2 Mondays of the month. We want to spread it out, first and third.
No.
None?
Sorry, my suggestion for that, if you're going to do it too, that the first meeting would be the council meeting. If we were to be recording on the reports, if it's like the first after the 30th, we don't have time to do that. So I would just suggest council first and then committee on the 3rd Monday.
So for July and August, it would be council meeting on the first Monday, super committee meeting on the 3rd Monday for July and August.
That's it.
And we would like to implement this prior to the May 1st deadline to ensure that future hopeful candidates or whatever there. But, Devin, is that?
One more consideration, this past year for the summer months, we specifically stuck away from the first week because that is often when the long weekend is and people like to take holidays. So your approach takes us back there. I'd like to see if there's consensus for the staff and council to go with the second and third Monday, just because that allows those holiday plans for our staff and for council members who also need some time off.
So that would create many summer holiday blocks. I kind of like that. So, okay, amendment. July and August, it would be council meeting second Monday, super committee meeting third Monday in November. Second and third. That would create 3 holiday blocks. Yeah, not always meet the big ball.
Yeah.
Okay, one councillor could do.
Just to clarify, so this will be a trial, and then we'll decide again later whether or not to make it permanent, that's my question.
Yeah, so we're gonna try it from March and April. Yeah. Do I just say I'll call for the vote? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It's unanimous now. Holy smokes. That was something.
We didn't. I didn't get a mover or a second there.
You move, well, you move forward, I guess, that, but you can. We got so excited there.
It's so late in the evening, I forgot to get a mover and second. Let's backtrack, rewind the tape. If you're comfortable, I need a mover and second.
Delete that from the internet.
Moved by Councilor Patu, seconded by Councilor Driscoll. All those in favor? It's carried.
Thank you.
Okay, there's no general matters, no closed meeting. I need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilor Patu, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sadler, that the meeting be adjourned at the call of the mayor. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Oh, that was very.